You're watching Arise America. Welcome back. The iconic shores of Sydney's Bondi Beach became a scene of terror Sunday evening after a mass shooting left at least 10 people dead. Footage shows panicked crowds fleeing the scene after hearing the sounds of gunfire. Police said 9 victims were killed along with one suspected attacker. At least 18 others were wounded. The gunfire erupted near Campbell Parade at about 18:45 local time as thousands gathered for the Chunaka by the Sea festival. Witnesses described rapid gunshots, screaming crowds and people running for cover across the beachfront. One alleged gunman was shot dead during the operation. A second suspected shooter was taken to a hospital in critical condition. The attack unfolded during a Jewish community celebration marking the first night of Hanukkah. U.S. President Donald Trump has condemned the attack. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese condemned what he called an act of evil anti-Semitism. Israeli President Isaac Herzog condemned the Bondi Beach mass shooting as a cruel attack.
In these very moments, our sisters and brothers in Sydney, Australia, have been attacked by vile terrorists in a very cruel attack on Jews who went to light the first candle of Hanukkah on Bondi Beach. Our heart goes out to them. Our heart misses a beat. The entire nation of Israel misses a beat in this very moment as we pray for the recovery of the wounded. We pray for them and we pray for those who've lost their lives. We send our warmest strength from here, from Jerusalem, and we repeat our alert time and again to the Australian government to seek action and fight against the enormous wave of anti-Semitism which is plaguing Australian society. Let's hope for better news, and we hope to see them all healing and here.
This afternoon, there has been a devastating terrorist incident at Bondi at the Hanukkah by the Sea celebration. This is a targeted attack on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah, which should be a day of joy, a celebration of faith. An act of evil anti-Semitism, terrorism, that has struck the heart of our nation. An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian, and every Australian tonight will be, like me, devastated on this attack on our way of life. There is no place for this hate, violence and terrorism in our nation. Let me be clear, we will eradicate it. Amidst this vile act of violence and hate will emerge a moment of national unity where Australians across the board will embrace their fellow Australians of Jewish faith at this dark moment for our nation. Our police and security agencies are working to determine anyone associated with this outrage. Our agencies will provide you with factual updates as quickly as possible as they continue to emerge. The evil that was unleashed at Bondi Beach today is beyond comprehension, and the trauma and loss that families are dealing with tonight is beyond anyone's worst nightmare. Australians have had their lives cruelly stolen and many have been injured. For all Australians, our first thoughts are with those in the terrible early hours of their grief. We are also thinking of everyone being treated for their injuries, and many of whom are alive right now because of the courage and quick action of the New South Wales Police and the first responders who rushed to their aid, as well as the courage of everyday Australians who, without hesitating, put themselves in danger in order to keep their fellow Australians safe. We have seen Australians today run towards danger in order to help others. These Australians are heroes, and their bravery has saved lives. As Prime Minister, I say on behalf of all Australians to the Jewish community, we stand with you, we embrace you, and we reaffirm tonight that you have every right to be proud of who you are and what you believe. You have the right to worship and study and live and work in peace and safety, and you enrich us as a nation. You should never have to endure the loss that you have suffered today, You should never know the fear that you know tonight. We will dedicate every resource required to making sure you are safe and protected. You are Australian and all Australians are with you today and every day. My fellow Australians, I say tonight that there are nights that tear at our nation's soul. In this moment of darkness, we must be each other's light. Hold on to the true character of the country that we love. Australia is stronger than the cowards who attacked innocent people today. Australia is braver than those who seek to make us afraid. Australia will never submit to division, violence or hatred. We will see justice done and we will come through this.
A lot of condemnation there concerning the Bondi Beach. Now, Joy John joins me from Washington, D.C. to discuss the Bondi Beach shooting, a rare incident in Australia. She is a global affairs analyst from Bellcrest Institute. Good to have you this weekend, Joy John. How does the Bondi attack highlight gaps in U.S. public events, security, especially for holiday gatherings in places like Times Square, New York's, synagogue, even in Australia itself?
Thanks for having me, Olajay. When something like this happens abroad, it immediately raises questions at home. The attack in Bondi shows that even well-monitored public spaces can be vulnerable. Large gatherings like Times Square, you mentioned, and places of worship, especially during holidays, rely heavily on visible security. Surveillance, rapid response, and all of that. I think that planning ahead can adjust in real time. Strong coordination among the first responders that we have and public awareness, I think, are two key things that are essential so people know what to do when something feels off in wherever environment they find themselves, be it church or a large gathering like a concert.
This incident affects Australia's international reputation, particularly its ability to ensure the safety and security of citizens and visitors.
Mm-hmm. Can you repeat that?
Okay, so I was asking, right, for situations like this, can you hear me now? How might this incident affect Australia's international reputation, particularly its ability to ensure the safety and security of citizens and visitors?
Well, Australia has very strong gun laws and a history of proactive public safety measures. That's why when this incident happened, the response we saw was swift. So, of course, tourists who want to visit Australia will be reassured that Australia has measures in place to protect them. That's what any visitor to a foreign land would first check on, the security of where you're going to. So I think Australia has done pretty well in that and just safeguarding their visitors and citizens.
Let's look at international response. What role can international organizations such as the United Nations play in addressing the global implications of this incident and promoting cooperation to prevent similar attacks? We know, like you said, Australia has a very strong gun regulation, but for issues like this, how can other countries also learn, take a cue from how it was handled in Australia?
There's just so much to learn. First of all, was the rapid response. What it implies here is that it's possible to strengthen security without taking freedoms away from people. Both can coexist at the same time. So there's just so much to learn, and most importantly, just seeing that they do have an established network, established and well-equipped security in place to tackle these things, and they are being proactive. So I would love to see other nations in the world, from Africa to Europe and to the US, being proactive and putting measures in place to ensure that their citizens are safe.
Talk about the issue of terrorism classification as well. Should this incident, is it too early to say that this is an act of terrorism, and what would be the implications for, international cooperation or intelligence gathering?
Absolutely. It is It is for me. You could hear the Prime Minister as well. It is an act of terrorism, and it's something that it's Australia as a country. One, it's there've been a similar attacks like this, but this is like one of its kind. And when things like this happen, naturally, other people take notes from it. Just like I said earlier, they go back to the drawing board and tighten what they have to do. Internationally, within international organizations, they would have to all meet at some point to ensure that religious minorities in their respective countries are protected under both the law and practice.
So we can't talk about this, right, Joy John, without looking at anti-Semitism and global security. So how does this incident reflect broader global trends in anti-Semitism, and what can be done to address this issue, internationally?
Well, internationally, like I just mentioned, there has to be a meeting point. There has to be a way where the leaders come in and know what's working. Because when one attack starts somewhere, it reflects a larger global challenge, and this kind of things that travel very quickly. So they're able to influence people from far. For instance, in the United States, the United States works closely, with partners in the Indo-Pacific just to monitor networks and support their local authorities, preventing all the spillovers at home. So for every country, for every body, I would say that domestic safety and their regional stability, it should be taken as priority. But then again, even as we discuss this, we cannot avoid the issue of citizen awareness. Citizens want to be, should know what's going on around them, should be kept updated on things and know what to do, like I earlier stated. All these things are connected. If you meet at the UN and then at home the citizens are not prepared, then it falls out. We saw how the hero was able to tackle the shooter. He did that because he was aware. So in cases like this, it's important that citizens are also carried along.
So I'm going to bring you to the question about, the U.S., especially with the topic of anti-Semitism. How might the United States, or how might this incident affect U.S. relations with countries where, anti-Jewish sentiment is rising? And how can Washington balance, condemnation with dialogue?
Well, it's a very serious. It is expected that the Trump administration will take a bold stance and speak clearly against violence while still supporting the affected communities. At the same time, I would say maintain close ongoing dialogue with the governments where these tensions are high, because when you speak out and engage, they don't contradict at all. What it ultimately does is to reinforce credibility and protect the people. So I do expect the Trump administration to take a bold stance. We did hear from the White House and given the position of the administration. So I do see that regardless of their ties, they will take a bold stance against it.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that, because Trump, he's condemned that on his Truth Social. But let's talk about the Australia-Israel relations here. You heard the president of Israel there, Isaac Herzog, talking about the issue or condemning it. How might this incident affect relations between Australia and Israel, particularly in the light of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's comments on Australia's handling of anti-Semitism?
So that's something that we would how it unfolds, when issues like this happen, it does test or puts diplomacy to the test, and of course the core values of any nation. So I would love to see how that unfolds.
Absolutely. And then let's talk about lessons, that other countries can learn. What lessons can be learned from this incident for global counterterrorism strategies, particularly in terms of preventing, lone wolf attacks and addressing potential transnational links?
So I would speak with the U.S., from the U.S. here, for policymakers in the U.S., I think the lessons to take away from Australia are many in terms of, because we have a strong, well, there is the Second Amendment that gives a right to bear arms. So, there's a thin line there. However, this means building trust with the communities, equipping their law enforcement, and acting with both care and decisiveness at all times. People will generally feel safer if they know or if they understand what their authorities are doing and why. So I strongly believe that protecting the citizens, while respecting their rights is still feasible. It's just a model that policymakers should study and adapt across their various communities. It is possible. So it's something, again, a few weeks ago we were on this topic on the gun laws in the U.S. I think it's about time that our policymakers go to the drawing board and make sure that people who have access to these guns are vetted, that they're, go through the layered security checks to make sure that mental health is real. So there's so many parts to it that policymakers can learn and use in adapting better policies for the people.
I'm going to ask you this final question before I let you go, which has to do with international law, with the U.S. So what U.S., commitments on the international law require, protection of religious minorities, and how can the response be measured against those standards?
Yeah, so part of the United States approach, I would say, lives of people. One, security is, in this case, making sure that the religious minorities are protected under both law and practice, I did say. And this commitment is shown all through every stage of their process, from how investigations are done, how the cases are being investigated, how the charges are brought forward, and what the court does, or how the courts handle them. And it's important that these steps are well done, because they reflect a system designed to balance safety with fairness. Authorities need to respond firmly and, most importantly, within the law. They also have to reinforce public confidence. I did hint to that earlier, because it would help communities across board feel very secure. And, it demonstrates that the country's institutions are capable of addressing threats while respecting their lives. Because a lot of people feel that, well, I'm helpless. I don't have a gun. I'm helpless. It's important that they're able to balance both, to make sure that, look, as much as we want to have you enjoy your freedom to bear arms, but we're also taking steps to protect our communities, and we will not allow our communities to be torn apart. So these are, I would say, commitments under international law that they should be looked into.
Thank you so much, Joy John. She is a global affairs analyst from Bellcrest Institute, Washington, D.C. We had to look at the Bondi Beach incident in Australia.